Oh, thank God.
No, but
Yeah, Friday was not the most fun days.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah. I had to go up to Andrews.
oh, you and Andrews.
Got nice little speeding ticket on the way back.
Oh no.
Trying to make time.
Bless you.
More updates from that.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Damn. I don't know what's going on. It's interesting.
The weather. Asparagus. Bless you. Apparently, if you yell asparagus, I didn't know. But apparently, it's supposed to make you not sneeze, or if you think about asparagus, the word asparagus. Apparently, that's supposed to help you.
Wait, really?
That's what I've been told. When Cam had nose surgery, and he was like, I can't sneeze. It's incredibly painful to sneeze. He's like, anytime I sneeze, yell asparagus at me. So he'd be like, he was like, all bent over, I'm like, asparagus. He's like, what? He was like, oh yeah, thanks. And he would sneeze.
That's
So
funny.
I'm gonna go
Very
ahead.
good. Okay, I learned something new today. Take something every
It's
day.
like screaming across the room.
Never hurts, never hurts.
My mom does this new thing where she sneezes after every time she eats.
Oh no.
And she does
Like
like
after
a
every
meal,
bite?
like no, a meal will finish.
Oh, okay.
And as she's done, she has a sneezing fit. And I'm just like, what? Doesn't
I
make
thought if
sense.
he eats too much, he's like, oh, I'm too full. That's why I'm sneezing.
I don't know. I don't get it.
What?
I guess it makes sense in their brain.
So
The
weird.
body's a very strange.
It's so weird. I'm like, that's not true. You're just giving us. He's like, no, it's true.
That's hilarious. It's so strange. I need to figure out some stuff. I was hoping to organize her. She's coming down this week for her birthday. And I'm trying to think of fun stuff to do.
It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, which is lame because she came to Columbia last year and we went here for her.
Oh, go to Columbia.
And it was cold. Yeah, we were like, we're not gonna stay in Columbia. What are we gonna do that for? We
That's nice.
the trip where I discovered Elon, like we went our college tour, was we went to Hilton Head for my grandparents' 50th anniversary. So like all these like New York, Connecticut people like went south.
That sounds
And we're like, well, let's look at schools. And then I moved down here because of that trip. So, but I remember they all went to Savannah on that. We hung back. Like beach, Hilton was cool too. Or actually, well, not RBC.
What do you do here? Like, what do you, like when my family comes, I'm like, I don't know. We just do outside things, like we go to
Oh,
the
yeah.
beach or we
Eat
walk.
and drink. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even drink with my family. It makes it even harder to do things. So I'm like, I don't.
Oh.
And I was like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I sit in my house with my dog and what?
There's not a brewery tour or a food tour that my folks don't want to do.
See, my family just doesn't. It's so, makes it so difficult. These are fine. Please participate.
See, I'm always thinking like the outdoor things, but like the first day, let's say it's gonna be like the 40s that day.
You just take her to Rex, not just your.
That's right.
You could go to the aquarium. It's very expensive, but you
I
could
hear it's expensive. Why is it so expensive?
I don't know. I wanted that too.
You're paying for like sea turtle surgeries and stuff. Because the Baltimore aquarium's not that expensive.
Yeah, the Chattanooga aquarium is not expensive. The Atlanta, the Georgia aquarium is pretty
The
expensive.
Columbia has zoo, which I never ended up going to.
Oh,
We're
please
in deep-
interrupt.
we're in
We're
deep
talking about
water.
aquariums.
I'm trying to, yeah, like.
The prices of
We're
aquariums.
trying to help Greg plan for when his mother visits.
I'm trying to just not screw up.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's press conference. The Bulldogs are coming off their bye week. They will hit the road and face Chattanooga Saturday at 2 o'clock. Here to talk about the Bulldogs, head coach Brent Thompson.
Thank you, John. Good to be back. It's good to be back in action. We practiced last night after a few days off. We took Friday and Saturday off of last week. Gave us an opportunity to catch up a little bit on recruiting. We'd kind of gotten caught behind with a little bit of a late bye week. So we did a lot of recruiting over this past week. We practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of last week. And really all we did was we played a lot of younger guys. We got a lot of scrimmage work with our 2s and our 3s. Got those guys a lot of work, and then implemented just the base game plan for the Chattanooga week. So I thought it was a very productive week. I myself took Wednesday and went down to Coach Taft's wake, and then did a couple of other speaking engagements around the state, and did some recruiting as well. So it was a pretty good, productive week for all of us on staff, as well as the players, and I think they needed it. They needed a little bit of break. They came back yesterday and probably had one of the best Sunday practices that we've had in a long time. Kind of the expectation that I was looking for was to come back and have a really good practice. We'll be off today, and then Tuesday we'll begin our preparations again for the Chattanooga week. Chattanooga is a team a lot like ETSU on offense. They want to run the football. They want to get downhill and run the football. They've got a really big offensive line. I think the quarterback does a good job of distributing the football and really doing a good job in the boot game as well. He's got a couple of receivers that he can go to. One of them we're very familiar with out here, Bryce Nunley, did a good job against us last year. And then they do have a pretty good set of running backs that I think can get downhill on you and really get the zone play going. Defensively, I think it's probably the most improved defense that you'll see throughout the course of the year, being that it was a new staff. He's starting to get a little bit more of his guys in place in the right places. So you see them improve quite a bit from week 1 to week 4 to where they are right now. So I think they're really in stride right now to be able to be a good defense on Saturday. For us, we're going to control what we control. The number one thing for us is to really just worry about this Chattanooga game. It's a big game for us, and as I told the team last night, all we can really hope for is to have a very important football game and have a meaningful football game this late in November with 2 games left. This is going to be a really big football game for us, and we're excited about it. Questions?
Coach, talking about Sunday practice being one of the best ones you've had, based on that, how do you think they'll handle coming off this bye week, the energy in practice? It's got to be
number one concern. That was I didn't know how we were going to come off of anytime that you give 2 days off, you have a little bit of a concern coming back. I thought that our senior leadership showed up and really set the tone. We really got off the football. Now we were just out there in helmets and shoulder pads, which is a little rare for us. But we got off the football and we moved around extremely well, which is all we were looking for. Football practice, as you get towards daylight savings and it gets a little bit darker, can be a little bit tough. You think it's really later than it is out there, and you're really not out there that long. But we handled it extremely well. And I think we handled it like a team that is ready to be able to go into this week knowing what is on the line right now.
Coach, last week you said you wanted to get healthy over the bye week, especially on the defensive side. Is any updates on guys who are coming back from injury, where you are health-wise?
Ryan McCarthy practiced on the offensive side. He's back. He missed the game against ETSU. He was back practicing with us yesterday. Dalton Owens was back working out with us yesterday, as well as Phil Davis. So those 3 guys have all come back. Marquise did not practice yesterday.
Coach, I know it's tough where you have a bye this late in the season, especially the way the team plays, but the way you're rolling 4 games in a row, how do you see the success of the field transitioning over? How important is it to see continued good practices like what you saw yesterday?
Yeah, it's extremely important. We didn't want the number one thing that I told the staff coming out of the ETSU game was we didn't want to lose the momentum over the bye week. So in order to do that, we had to keep practice interesting, and by doing so, sometimes you've got to pare practice down a little bit. I didn't want to focus too much on Chattanooga. I wanted to just get the base in, but I wanted to go back to a little bit of fundamentals. And you don't want to do too much fundamentals without losing interest. The best thing we did last week was just get our younger guys ready to go, because really the older guys get excited when they see the younger guys step up and have a good time. So we had 2 really good days of 15, 20 play scrimmages with those 2s and 3s that were really exciting. So back to work this week. We may do a little bit of work with the 2s and 3s, but it was good to have a little bit of excitement around practice during a bye week, which could be very challenging.
Going off of that, how important is it for those 2s and 3s to get those reps? And what's your confidence level in them? Should they have to go in and play against Chatterwalk?
Well, I think our 2s are very functional right now, both sides of the ball. It helped us out a little bit to be able to get those guys just reps playing football at this point. It helped them out from a mental standpoint as well, as they've been giving us looks, or they've been the backups for so long that they can get a little bit down this time of year as well. So we're going to try to keep those guys engaged as best you can. But I do feel good about where a lot of our twos are at, especially our twos on the defensive side where there's more freshmen there. You almost don't consider them freshmen anymore because they've been in the system for about 12 to 14 weeks right now. So I think those guys are getting a lot better. On the offensive side, most of those guys are a little bit more upperclassmen, more experienced. So we really wouldn't have any issues putting any of them in the game, and hopefully we can stay healthy throughout the next couple of weeks.
Y'all have been in a lot of close games. Chattanooga has also been in a lot of close games. How do you think you match up as far as, well, really everything? How do you think you match up with them, and what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen from them?
Well, I tell you what is ETSU is the same way, and ETSU just lost another one last week to Western Carolina, and we're all three very similar types of teams where you hope that you keep it close in the fourth quarter and give yourself a chance to win in the fourth. We've been fortunate enough to be on both ends of those, and I say fortunate enough because we learned at the beginning of the year, and I think that helped us out in the later part of the year against ETSU. So they're two similar teams that like to run the football, like to play ball control, and they're okay with punting the football and playing a little bit of field position with it. So I like the way that we match up. I think this is going to be another one of those games. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter. It's going to be a tight ball game because teams are very, very similar. We hope that we'll be able to just finish this one like we did in the ETSU game.
I know it was just Sunday, but did it feel different among the guys? Are they excited about having so much on the line at this time of the season? Or what's sort of the
everything that I can gauge? That's a good question. Everything that I can gauge from these guys, the way that they handled the bye week, is I have a good sense that they know what's on the line, and they know that they've got a good chance to have a really good football season, and to be able to go and have a season really just above 500 or a winning season around here would be an awesome season as well for us. Obviously, we need to get this one to get that thing going, but I think they also know what else is on the line, and they're really working hard towards getting that. And I also think the fresh legs helped. Going 14 straight weeks and 10 straight weeks of games certainly helps get your legs back underneath you when you can just take a couple of days off, get out of here for a little bit, and to go and relax.
Do Citadel fans have your permission to root for Wofford this weekend?
That's great. I sat around and, obviously I was watching most of the SoCon games, including the Chattanooga game this week. And I did find myself rooting for teams that I probably wouldn't necessarily root for all the time. So, yeah, most certainly we can root for Wofford this week.
Have you had to talk to some of these seniors and let them know, hey, there's only a couple of games left in your collegiate career, leave it all out on the field?
Yeah, we do. We talk every week, and we talk every week in our leadership council meeting, and that's the one thing that we don't have all seniors on that leadership council, but we have quite a few, and that's the one thing that comes out of every single week is these guys, they just want to win, and they didn't understand that, and they're imparting that onto the younger guys in the group to tell their classes that, hey, this is the end of the line for some of these guys, and someday it's going to be the end of the line for you. So you want to make sure that you put it all out there for these guys. And this has been one of those classes that's been enjoyable to coach, enjoyable to be around as well. So I think they're doing a good job of keeping the locker room engaged throughout the later parts of the year.
How tough is it to dangle that carrot of wanting to, aim towards those high goals that the team has in the long, term, the big story of the season, compared to then the week by week? If we take our business now, we'll be in that position. How difficult is it to find that one?
We address it on the smaller group level first, and then the part that we want to impart onto the whole team is just the 1-0 every week. And you watch the press conference with PJ Fleck. I thought that was important. They're going to win the Penn State season and be 1-0, and that's exactly what they went out and did in a game that everybody thought that they were going to be outmatched in. They did a great job of being able to, and really did a good job against Penn State as well. So I was listening to that press conference and trying to impart the same thing on my players is really, there is a bigger picture. We do have bigger goals in place, and we're thankful for that. But they all mean nothing if you don't get this one and if you don't go 1-0 this week.
Can you talk about Brandon Rainey's season and sort of the big picture? You made it. You won the game that he missed, and you made it through this stretch where he wasn't at 100%. Just the big picture on his season so far.
Well, if you start off from the first 2 weeks where we struggled a little bit, and Brandon played well, But what you got to understand about Brandon is it's not good enough unless you win. And that's where he took those losses to Towson and both Towson and Elon very much to heart. So when he came back against Georgia Tech, that was one that I felt that he really wanted. Of course, being at home helps, but he was also such a fierce competitor. And unfortunately, when he took the injury in that game, it set him back a few weeks. We were able to survive and come out at the end of it, but going into the VMI game, going into the Sanford game, Brandon gave us everything that he possibly could, and I don't know, and nobody will really know where he was at physically. He would never tell you, and he's such a good, fierce competitor that he wasn't going to let anybody know where he was at. But coming out of that is Brandon has gotten better every single week, and Brandon has sensed it. That was the same way that I felt that he had gotten at the end of the year last year. He's a guy that gets better with more reps. He's a guy that when there's more on the line, he gets a lot better. Even on the sideline of that ETSU game, he wasn't letting those guys give up. He wasn't going to walk out of there with anything less than a win. So I think he's had a very, very good year. Hopefully we finish this thing off the right way. He's going to have a great year.
What do you think of the Wofford-Furman matchup?
It's a good matchup. Two very similar types of teams. And I watched a lot of the Furman game last week against VMI. I think Furman's playing really well on offense. They scored 60 points on VMI, and they've done a pretty good job of being able to shut down what was a really good VMI offensive team. Now, they didn't come out in the second half and do much against Furman, so I think they did a good job at the half. I've watched a lot of Wofford on the offensive side. Very dynamic, very explosive. And I think they're back to doing what Wofford does, and that is getting you in a lot of space with the quarterback and making you play a lot of option responsibilities and still have the ability to get downhill. And Coach Lang does that probably better than any coordinator in the league. So this is going to be a very good, tightly matched game. I believe that Furman beat them last year, but the two previous times, I believe Wofford beat them. So it's been a back-and-forth series. Sitting back and watching that, I know they're going to kick a little bit before us, so we'll be able to see what that result is probably at the end of our game.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.